Gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome back to another special lunch edition of the NFT Roundtable today. We're breaking down another wild week in NFTs and Web3. Never a dull moment here. Welcome anyone new to the show. We're happy to have you here. If you're lurking in the YouTube or Twitter streets, feel free to drop some comments in the chat and chime in throughout the discussion. I'm your host, Ghost. I'm joined by several members of the Lucky Trader squad today. We got a full crew. So we've got Logan, editor-in-chief over at Lucky Trader. If you notice his camera being a little potato-like, he's on very bad internet out in rural Pennsylvania over there. We've got Jason, NFT lead over at Lucky Trader. He's rocking the CryptoPunk, deep in the AI streets. Tyler, our Lucky Trader content star, host of the Lucky Lead in the Morning Minute, repping the Pudgy Penguin. Guys, how are we all doing today?
Good, Ghost. The sun is shining in Chicago. We're getting good weather again here this weekend. We've got Cinco de Mayo coming up for the margarita lovers out there. And then one of my childhood favorites, Sports Illustrated, getting into the NFT game. You love to see it. So I'm feeling good today.
Yeah, Logan, Jason, any opening thoughts here? How are we doing today?
Yeah, good in Miami. The weather's been nicer. Actually, the sun's been shining a little bit less. It's been a little bit cooler. It was brutal the last couple of days. So, yeah.
Logan, how's the internet holding up over there?
I don't even know if I'm here right now, but it's
we
okay.
got you.
It's rainy and bad, if you can hear me.
Well, we'll hang in there with Logan. He's trying his best over there. But we've got some fun stuff on the docket today. We're going to be talking a little bit about the recent LeBron James photo that we saw yesterday that kind of blew up on the NFT streets over there. We're talking about Blur blending the NFT space. We're talking about NFT ticketing. We've got it all down. Before we get into it, as a reminder, none of this is financial advice. We don't know anything. And if you like this content, we've got our roundtable article coming out later today that'll drop alongside the show, talking about a lot of the same topics that we get into here. So without further ado, let's get into our first topic, which is Blur blending the NFT space. And just for reference there, I'm mid-journey. That was putting a bunch of JPEGs into a blender. That's what I came up with there. But the NFT world was taken by a surprise on Monday when leading marketplace Blur made a major announcement. And instead of introducing anticipated features like trait bidding, art blocks, or additions, they decided to venture into lending. So Blend is their new product. It's a peer-to-peer perpetual lending protocol by Blur, aiming to unlock more liquidity for NFTs and bridge the gap between NFT market and broader financial markets. So the launch consisted of two components. We had lending against NFTs and a buy now, pay later, which combines lending and leverage, functioning like an options market. So a quick rundown of how it works. Blend mechanics. Individuals can create loans and provide NFT collateral peer-to-peer. Loans don't have liquidation prices or expirations, so that's the perpetual aspect there. Fixed rates for loans. Borrowers can repay anytime. Lenders can call the loans anytime, triggering a Dutch auction, which is an interesting mechanism there to find a new lender. And if no lender steps in, the NFT is liquidated. We also have zero fees for borrowers and lenders, and then the Blur governance will manage the protocol fees, max interest rate, and auction formula. So the Dutch auction feature was the one that really set Blend apart from the other platforms like NFTFi and BendDAO, which we've already seen in the space. But the more unpredictable element is the buy now, pay later. And those mechanics kind of reverse the typical lending process. So buyers can purchase NFTs with basically a 10% down payment. And there were three initial collections offered, two which weren't surprising and one which was very surprising. So we saw Punks, Azuki, and Miladies as the three initial collections there. So initially we saw the market respond positively with three collections involved in Blend, seeing a nice surge in the first day of trading. And other projects were also rising as people decided to speculate on which collections might be next for the BNPL. But most of those gains kind of were given back just a day later. And the launch also included a points aspect, which incentivizes farmers and whales, but it's unclear how this will impact the market in the long run. And while this temporary pump has already occurred, the sustainability of the growth is kind of uncertain at this point. The launch generated some volume, though, with Blur touting yesterday that they're now the #1 lending protocol by volume and users on ETH. So clearly people are participating. So I want to open it up to the group here, and I'm going to tee off Tyler here because I know we saw in his timeline yesterday, and we talked a little bit about on the Lucky Lead that he was involved in this. So curious to hear if anyone's participating and how you see the product kind of impacting the broader space. We'll start with you, Tyler.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. So I have participated, not on the lending side, but on the buy now, pay later side of things. So 2 days ago, I jumped in on the Azuki market. I ended up picking up one for 2.2 ETH. I think it cost 15.9 at the time. So I fronted 2.2. A loan from the Azuki Blur pool, essentially fronted the rest. So like 13.7 ETH. Long story short, I listed it at 16.9. It sold. I made about a 1 ETH scalp overnight. Feeling good, feeling a little gambly. I got back in on a super high risk BNPL Azuki yesterday, fronting just 0.4 ETH for an Azuki on the floor. That one's not looking as good. So if anyone's following the market, a whale dumped 60 Azukis overnight, 1,000 ETH worth. It tanked the floor about an ETH. My loan is now underwater. My lender called it at 3 a.m., losing their 250 points because they called the loan before the 24-hour window. So the loan is already called. I've got like 18 hours to pay this thing off. It's not looking great, so I'm probably going to be out that 0.4. But kind of worth it for me just to kind of experience all the different aspects of the program. And I think I've already started to see takes from people who clearly aren't that close to it, making egregious takes like this blur is going to lead to a Luna-like meltdown in the NFT market. Like that's absolutely absurd. Like that's not going to happen. We've seen some loans that don't make sense early on in this program because of the incentives. And I think to me, it relates back to just like early days of Blur farming, right? We saw inorganic market activity tied to the fact that Blur was paying market participants to make trades they wouldn't have normally made. We're seeing that same thing again. People are getting paid to make loans that they wouldn't normally make, like 80, 90, 95% loans with 0% interest. It's throwing the market out of whack. It'll normalize at some point. So I've already started to see people move to the sidelines. I'm likely going to move to the sidelines, pending the outcome of this, wild BNPL. But I like the product long term, and we'll get into that in a minute. But it's been an interesting twist. Definitely didn't expect this curveball coming this week.
Yeah, Logan or Jason, you guys have you been dabbling at all in it, or have any thoughts on it?
I have not been dabbling, and I won't be dabbling. The only Luna-like collapse that this is going to lead to is going to be in your own portfolio. Not you specifically, Tyler. Obviously, you have a financial background. Other people who have financial backgrounds and understand exactly how this thing works could potentially benefit. There's very few of those people, I think, in the NFT space right now. And most of the people using this they just want to translate the meme coin rally onto the JPEGs attached to a meme coin. So, I don't find this super interesting for like most people. If you are into this sort of thing, then I guess it's cool that it came out, but I'm totally on the sidelines here.
Can I ask Jason a question here, Ghost?
Yeah, go ahead.
And Logan, sorry to cut you off. So let's fast forward. Let's say there's an NFT market rebound in 9 months, and Cool Cats are one of the collections involved in the Blur Buy Now Pay Later, and we get like a super bullish announcement. LeBron's rocking Cool Cats hoodie sweatshirts ahead of the NBA opener. Are you BNPLing into Cool Cats?
No, I'm not.
In a better market?
No. I don't typically trade with leverage. I don't typically trade crypto with leverage, and I definitely am not going to trade NFTs with leverage.
That's fair.
Logan, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just going to say my thoughts are eerily similar to Jason's. I have no real interest in participating. I do think long term these types of products are good just for the robustness of the market and the maturation of the market. We talked about that last week. If you want more money to come in, if you want different types of money to come in, you probably need these financial tools for those types of things to happen. But I just have no interest, and I think the demographic right now is not equipped to utilize it effectively or appropriately. On the Lucky Lead this morning, Tyler brought a great guest on, and I'm going to blank on the name, unfortunately, but just spoke to the fact that unfortunately it does feel a little bit predatory in nature just because of that lack of education. Not that Blur is acting maliciously, but just kind of feels that way just as a result of people not knowing what's going on. This is a place that is so ripe for like every possible scam ever. And while these things feel above board, they're still like gonna trap a lot of people probably.
No, I think you make a great point. And I've said some bullish things about this program, and I want to be balanced in my take. I don't think the documentation was very clear that came along with this launch, especially on how this Dutch auction for these loans, when the lender calls them, works. For one, I thought I saw that it was a 30-hour period after the lender gives you 24 hours. That is not the case. So on my BNPL loan that got called, it is over at 24 hours. And I feel like that's a little bit different from the initial information I saw going around on Twitter. I think the other aspect of this, like one of the primary components of buy now, pay later, is your ability to chip away at the debt if you do want the NFT. So like, let's say I love my Azuki. I fell in love with it. I can't pay 15 ETH right now, but I want to pay 1 ETH per month. Or maybe more to keep my loan afloat so I can try to have a shot at keeping this thing. There is no way to do that right now. So I am just out of luck. And they said that feature is coming in a future update. I don't know. That feels like kind of an egregious move to launch this without that feature in place, because it feels like a foundational aspect of this program.
Do you think that they've launched this into the meme coin rally intentionally and sort of rushed product to get it out during a time when people are using leverage especially heavily during this like little mini thing that's going to ruin everybody?
You know, I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. I see why you're saying that. It makes some sense. I guess I think they knew I think May 1st was always a date on the calendar. They were going to launch something.
I was more curious about that from the perspective of, we know that a lot of the other lending platforms have recently released like rewards. We've got a token coming, I think, for Arcade XYZ. Like, I'm curious if this just is kneecapping some of those other platforms that were hoping to get some traction. But now you've got this one-stop shop of Blur, who is kind of just reaching into all the different aspects of the NFT space and keeping you all on the same platform.
It's an interesting one. And I've gone back and forth in my head on this. I think certainly a lot of liquidity has already moved to Blur, right? Like we saw 16 million yesterday. Like for some perspective, NFT-Fi, which has been around since 2021, has done like 400 million total in 2.5 years. And that includes the massive bull run. So that's definitely a huge day. With that being said, I think this getting a lot of exposure to NFT lending. And I think a lot of people are more normal people who want to participate in lending with more normal terms will go away from Blur, because the normal terms just aren't there right now. It doesn't make sense for lenders. The environment is much more set up for borrowers right now than lenders. So I think people who want to make normal, 30 to 50% conservative loans. No loan is conservative in the NFT market because things crash 50%, in days and weeks. But there are other platforms like NFT-Fi, like Arcade, where you can make more conservative loans. And I'm starting to think they might benefit from this. So, we'll see.
That's interesting. Go ahead.
I think there's a secondary benefit that sort of ties into what you're just describing, Tyler, and in the sense that like Blur has released something, whether or not you want to call it revolutionary, but they've gone ahead and tried to do something innovative, and of course we can chip away at all the the cons and the missteps, perhaps, or the oversights. But what this really should do is potentially enable other people to build on top or to extract little bits and pieces of this that weren't previously launched or enabled in NFT financialization. So that part's really, really cool. I think this is far too complex a thing for them to have kind of last minute, spun up to hit some arbitrary date. They've been working on this for months. And I think the collaboration with Paradigm and others obviously speaks to that. This feels like a very, very important, complex, both technically speaking as well as logistically speaking, type of problem to try to tackle. So I can't imagine they'd rush something like this out.
Like on that note, Logan. So like I agree that the tech is great, and I think that's one of the coolest parts of this. It's all decentralized, automated, behind the scenes. I love the Dutch auction feature. It does give folks an out, if lender one doesn't want to hold your loan, you now have outs with the lending pool. And I like that feature quite a bit. But like, why couldn't they give us a preview or at least some time to digest all the information behind this complex program? I mean, it took me a full 12 hours, I think, to really get a handle on the aspects of this program. And I was still only like 80%. But then they launched and live an hour later with the points, and then people were just rushing out, to capitalize on these day one point incentives. And some of them are definitely going to get wrecked.
And to your point, I think this gets a little more interesting when they start adding new collections, and particularly like low cost collections. Because I mean, currently right now they have Punks, they have Azuki, and someone on Blair's team has a lot of Miladies, and that's why they have Miladies, I'm sure. It doesn't make any sense. But once you start adding collections that are like under half an ETH or whatever, it gets a little more, reasonable to play around with it. And if you lose, 0.05 ETH, that's fine. But some people, that 0.4 ETH that you lost on the last trade, or didn't lose yet, but probably going to, that's like their entire crypto savings. So, and that's just, playing around with one Punk or one Azuki or whatever. Punk's even more than Azuki's. But yeah,
and that person should not be. Yeah, that person should not be doing this.
Obviously, yeah. But some of them will. That's the problem.
Do you think that people like Machi are going to get wrecked in the same way that, like, he's clearly the biggest lender already, I think, and participating the most, and we saw him just get absolutely blasted in Franklin. Same there on the previous release there. Do you think that the same thing happens here eventually, or is this more advantageous for him as a lender?
So this is getting very PvP, and it's so hard to track. And like Sam, NFT Stats has been doing such an awesome job of trying to track these whales who are using like 50 plus wallets to manipulate these markets. Like the one who's accumulated 300 Clone X, like 300 doodles. Now I think another different whale had 180 Azukis. So the way Machi gets wrecked is if Machi lends a ton into Azukis, and then the Suzuki whale, like, F you, Machi, I'm selling them all. And then that's going to liquidate all the loans. Then Machi's going to take loss on all of them. So that's where this gets super risky.
Yeah. I mean, I think Blur continued to trend down a little bit. So like the rewards that you're getting, which were the Blur packages that had coin in them, that continues to lower as well. So I'm curious to see the impact on the coin as we see people try to continue to farm this. But if the coin continues to trend lower, it's not going to be worth the money, I guess. And I saw two sides to this. On one end, I like having more financial tools because I think anytime you can add more advanced financial tools to the space, it's better for the space to grow. But at the same time, I don't think that I love the idea of incentivizing people to do inorganic stuff. And we saw that originally with the Blur farming. And when you create this chaos of making people do stuff that's inorganic, that's not just buying things because you want it, or even wanting to flip it for a profit, this is different than that. That's like, this is farming and dumping on people, like just completely manipulating the markets. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there. But will be interesting to see what happens there. Anyone have any final thoughts on that, or do we want to move on to the next topic?
Yeah, just final thought. I think you nailed it, Ghost. I think I really like the Blur products. I think both of us do. And like you and I were actively using Blur, the marketplace, before the incentives came out. And it's the incentives that are wrecking all the markets and what's driving sentiment so down towards Blur. Like this new lending product is great. This buy now, pay later. I mean, your thoughts, it's still a nice feature to have on the platform. But it's these incentives, it's the farming rewards that are really just screwing up the market. And
devil's advocate take there is how many people would use this without the incentives, and would any of the whales be using Blur if they weren't farming right now? At least the lending protocol.
That's a great question, and I don't have the answer to it on the lending side. I think on a trading standpoint, a lot of folks were starting to migrate over to Blur. They probably don't jump to 60-70% market share as quickly as they did. And it's so hard to even read volume numbers these days because so much of it is just manipulation and farmed. But it would have been slower adoption. So I get why they did it, I guess. But again, the question, at what cost?
I'll push back on that a little bit, though, because I don't think I've ever been interested in lending. But I think that if Blur seamlessly integrated it into in a way that was nice, like on the platform that I already use. Like I'm kind of weary of going to different platforms, especially ones that I don't really know very well. But as Tyler said, like we enjoy Blur. I trade on Blur. Like if they would have just implemented that, maybe even without rewards, like I might have been interested in trying to buy now, pay later, even if there wasn't some farming incentive behind it, just because it was on the platform that I trust and use. So that's my perspective.
Why? I mean, I get why you would want to buy now, pay later, and we can move on right after this. But why would you put your NFTs up on the buy now, pay later side of things if you weren't getting rewarded in some capacity?
I mean, I guess there would be the typical like percentage APR that you would get for lending it out that we've seen on the other platforms. I'm talking about more about the incentives when it comes to like the Blur points and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, but I think that being able to farm, first of all, Blur's made it like a point that that's what they do now, and two, I just don't think there would be that much activity, and they need a lot of activity for this to work. I mean, you have to have NFTs available, and they guaranteed that by allowing for farming. So, yeah,
I mean, we could keep it moving to the next topic here, but I do think it's interesting to watch. And we know that Blur is going to be doing stuff with art blocks and additions. They've got a lot of other stuff on the roadmap, so I think it's going to be interesting to watch as Blur continues to kind of cannibalize other aspects of the market that maybe weren't on the initial mind map you would call it, of what you consider for a marketplace to be doing. But let's talk a little bit about LeBron and some NBA players getting into NFTs here. Just a great LeBron shoe generation there from Midjourney. But some big news last night ahead of the Lakers-Warriors playoff matchup. I've personally been enjoying the NBA playoffs a ton, been watching almost every game. But we saw a post that made some of the NFT community do a double take there. And a photo tweeted out from the Lakers Twitter account to its 11.6 million followers showed LeBron James arriving for a game wearing Nike's Artifact shoes. And this is the type of moment that absolutely would have broken the NFT world during the bull market, with arguably the greatest player of all time rocking an NFT first sneaker on a massive playoff stage. And the sentiment on the timeline seems super positive, with many chiming in to show their support. So I'm going to read off a few of these tweets here. This one was from Zapito, who is one on the Artifact team. This is a cool picture of him onboarding LeBron to the platform. Bryce sent coldest photo in Web3 history, Brown wearing the Artifact shoes. Artifact went from photoshopping shoes onto celebrities to get him to actually wear them. Respect. So they had initially photoshopped it onto Elon Musk in the very early days, but now they've got the biggest celebrities wearing them, which is just an awesome post there. And then finally, NFT Bark chiming in with the official Instagram account, posted a picture, LeBron James, super positive for Artifact. And this all comes on the heels of a lot of negativity, I feel like, around the Nike brand and how they were handling Artifact. And this last post here kind of mentions that. So LeBron flexing his Clone X and rocking Artifact AF1s was incredibly cool. I've taken a complete 180 on my opinion that Nike was deprioritizing the Artifact brand. Thrilled to have been wrong. So people are really liking this. And that kind of leads me into we got one more actually. So despite this positivity, there was this cold bucket tweet from Cirrus on why we can't have nice things in the space. A Blur farmer and a notorious pump and dumper apparently got in on the action, likely hoping to take advantage of this big moment here. So even though there was a pump in the collection a little bit, it might not have been super organic. And as we were just talking about, it's hard to trust any of the numbers in the space. But a few questions to get the discussion going here. Does seeing these LeBron rocking these kicks, make your opinion change towards the Artifact brand, or how Nike has been handling that NFT arm based on that negativity that we saw recently? So I'll tee up. Let's start with Jason.
I mean, yeah, I'm not super into the Artifact ecosystem as it is, but I think it's cool to see LeBron wearing these shoes. I'm not sure that I totally understand why this would make me want to buy their NFTs. I do think it's cool. It's good for growth. It's good for Nike. It's good for the NFT space in general. NBA players have been wearing or using NFTs for a long time now. Steph Curry had an ape. Campai Pandas are all over the Miami Heat. Everyone, all of those players wear them, like not even on the court, just like around. So yeah, I mean, I think it's great for the NFT space. I don't think it adds that much value to artifact NFTs, at least not during the bear market. Maybe in the bull, they'll go a little bit higher because historically LeBron has shown their logo on his feet or whatever. But yeah.
Logan, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I second that. I don't think this necessarily changes my opinion on the artifact ecosystem, specifically CloneX. Like I noticed the tweet was in regards to CloneX after the picture was Zaptio and the onboarding of LeBron. But I do think it's potentially like very important for these Air Force One, this collab of which there's 10 different pairs. You can kind of point back to this being, the moment for artifact sneakers, but potentially, right? I'm future casting a little bit here, but if they continue to explode, if people continue to wear them, people as notable as LeBron, I could see making a bet on something like that. I don't know. I mean, like, do you hold the pre-forged NFT forever? Do you forge it and hold the physicals forever? I don't know. But anyway, I thought it was really, really awesome. And super great to see the quote from the team. I put it in the post on Lucky Trader, the Clegg quote that said, "I'm glad I don't have to Photoshop CGI sneakers on icons anymore," which is pretty remarkable. Secondly, as a small note here, as a disclaimer for anybody bullish on potentially this happening, I do hold like the first artifact sneakers ever, the Fiwo collab. So this might as well blow up and blow up those shoes as well.
I just love this so much. And these guys just gave, incredibly logical takes. I'm going to go more emotional take here. I mean, it's awesome to see LeBron rocking these artifact shoes. I took pride in it just for being an NFT market participant. I don't own any artifact. Well, actually, I do. I've got 5 of those AR hoodies that show the wings behind you in augmented reality when you scan the barcode. I'm probably going to go shoe shopping. Logan, quick question. Is this from the Artifact Nike Air Force One pre-forged collection? So
it is. Yeah, I'm almost certain because they tweeted later that it was 1 of 10, which we know, of course, the forge is happening right now. It's open till May 8th. Wrote it up in the post on Lucky Trader this morning as part of this. And the LeBron ones in particular, which I believe are the ones that he's wearing, I don't know if this is a little bit different, are not even the most expensive ones. They're about 0.42, if my eyeball is correct. Can't confirm that, but some of the most expensive ones are in like the 5 ETH range, of course, for the lower quantities.
Yeah, no, I just looked it up. I think you're right. I think it's the Genesis, and they're trading at 0.42. I'm trying to see like if they've spiked since LeBron wore these things. It's so hard to read the price charts on these. Oh yeah, they spiked for sure.
A ton of volume came in last night.
60 sales. See. Yeah, nice. I don't know that I'm going to buy these. I've been eyeing those damn Murakami drip ones for so long. They're actually down from day one. These Genesis, the ones LeBron rocked, are getting close. Related to like CloneX pumping or not pumping, again, like anyone who's been following this market knows that CloneX has been manipulated the most. So like you just can't buy in to that market right now. It's just such a shame because of like what the farmers have done. But I love it. Artifacts, it got our attention. They clearly have the ability to get in front of the world, and that's pretty bullish, at least for them as a company. Is it bullish for the NFTs themselves? Maybe not. Maybe not the PFPs. I think it is probably bullish for the collectibles and the collectible shoes specifically. So I do think I'm a bit more bullish on those.
Yeah, Tyler, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, and sometimes it's nice to just put the financials aside and be like involved in this cool moment. Like, it's just awesome to see LeBron James. Like, this wasn't, and we love Steph Curry too. Like, Steph Curry is amazing, and him rocking the Bored Ape was like a monumental moment in the bull market. But like, LeBron James is one of the most recognizable athletes on the planet. So seeing him rock those shoes was just absolutely awesome. And And to see that picture with them onboarding him onto Artifact, I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, what's Artifact doing? Or Nike doesn't care about them. They just kind of want to cannibalize it and take them and put it away. But they're clearly doing stuff, and not everything you see on Twitter or through the volume charts necessarily means like a definitive what the business is doing. So I thought it was super positive. I also wanted to hit this other piece of NFT news and NBA news, and it isn't really news, but I'm making it news because it just blew my mind. But Joel Embiid won the NBA's MVP award yesterday, and I saw the tweet on the timeline, and I noticed that he was rocking an NFT profile picture, and it was one that I didn't recognize. So I went down a rabbit hole here, and the collection is called Loaded Lions. It's the first PFP collection for Crypto.com's NFT marketplace on Chronos, and some of the numbers honestly shocked me. So the collection launched on November of 2021, peak bull market times here. It's still holding a $1,300 floor. That's about 0.7 ETH. Has seen $51.5 million in secondary volume. And there was also apparently a $1 million sale on a rare lion, which took me down a completely separate rabbit hole. So the buyer's name was Mark Watney, which is the name of Matt Damon's character in the film The Martian. And Matt Damon was notably a promoter of Crypto.com's in their commercials. So if you remember the Fortune Favors the Brave commercial, that became kind of a normie meme once the markets crashed there. So I say all of this to get to, am I taking crazy pills here? Like, as a group here that covers the NFT market very closely, has anyone ever heard of these? And are there just huge pockets of the space that we just don't see at all?
I think he's been rocking this for a while, actually, because I was on his Twitter feed recently, maybe in the last few weeks, so perhaps not a while. And I recall it being that. I did not do the work that you did, Ghost, to unearth all this stuff. There are certainly pockets of this entire ecosystem that we're never possibly aware of, just given, it's near 24/7 operating time, and all of the weird angles and blockchains and projects that can spin up for nearly zero cost, again, at any time. So interesting, for sure.
I just wonder if this is part of a contractual obligation. I mean, the Sixers have a partnership with Crypto.com. They have since September 2021. So, yeah, I don't know. Has he ever spoke to why he has this as his PFP, or I've never heard of this collection, but I've never traded NFTs on Crypto.com either. So,
are you buying a loaded lion after this?
I am not. I will not be buying anything. I say that every single week.
I don't even know how to. If I wanted to, how could I do it? I've never even heard of Chronos.
So I went on their marketplace. It looks like you could buy it in USDC or whatever you want. I haven't confirmed that because I didn't try to buy anything, but it looked pretty simple, just like your normal marketplace. But Joel Embiid rocking it. Matt Damon. Maybe this is a secret project started by Joel Embiid and Matt Damon. It's like the Nakamigos type rumors that we need here. But it was quite the rabbit hole to go down, and I just found it hilarious that as a group that we cover this space 24/7, and I've never even heard of this project, and the MVP of the NBA is rocking this. So little fun stuff there. But I want to keep us moving on to the final topic, which is another sports related one, which is Sports Illustrated announcing their new ticket platform. All right. So yesterday, Sports Illustrated Tickets unveiled their newest project called Box Office, which is a collaboration with Consensus and powered by Polygon. The goal to create the first ever NFT platform that combines NFT ticketing solutions with traditional non-NFT tickets for sports, concerts, and theater events worldwide. It's an ambitious undertaking, but Sports Illustrated boasts an inventory of 50 million tickets across 250,000 events. So that's a huge reach there. And a quick breakdown of what you need to know about Box Office. It's a seamless solution for event owners, hosts to create, manage, and promote live events. They're introducing something called Super Ticket, which is a cutting-edge technology that connects hosts with attendees using blockchain and barcodes. The pricing is said to be 50% lower than their competitors, and they're offering free credits with ticket purchases. So the platform's aiming to work with the organizers from various sectors, including sports, health, fitness, concerts, comedy, and nightlife. And they're launching events ranging from youth sports to cheer and dance competitions, fashion shows, live music bars. So pretty much the full spectrum of events here. And some notable events, quotes from the official press release here. David Lane, the CEO of SI Tickets, said, "Blockchain is the future of ticketing, and now owners, promoters, hosts, and attendees have access to advanced ticketing experience that transforms the antiquated barcode into engaging and collectible content." Another one from Joanna Powell, she's the global head at Consensus NFT, added, "It's thrilling to see disruptive Web3 technology gaining traction through new use cases like NFT ticketing. We believe the partnership with SI Tickets will make it easier for owners, promoters, and facilitators to create a fan experience that reaches previously unseen levels of engagement." So a lot of bullish stuff there for NFT and ticketing. And as enthusiasts of Web3 and NFTs, it's really exciting to see this type of technology being embraced and pushed forward with one of the most promising use cases, as we've talked about heavily on here, with ticketing and NFTs. And it's also another win for Polygon, who will also be handling the Sotheby's NFT marketplace that was announced this week. So that was 2 major onboarding wins for that team again this week. We've talked about how tickets are a beautiful use case for NFTs before, so I'm curious to hear the group's thoughts on this launch and the potential impact on mass adoption. Start with Logan.
Yeah, I think this is great. Tickets have been like one of those low-hanging, or at least what felt like one of these low-hanging use cases that we've talked about time and time again on this show. Maybe a month or so ago, we talked about was it Avenged Sevenfold? What was the notable band that Ticketmaster thing. But aside from that, there really hadn't been too many other, platforms or projects willing to kind of push and produce some sort of pilot. So I think this is a great first step, and a larger than just kind of that beginning step. They're literally rolling out an entire platform. The only thing I wish would have happened with this is I wish they would have kind of pushed it out with some notable event for people to potentially be able to get tickets for. So there's like huge partnership opportunity here, and it is a little bit different because they're promoting it almost in like a B2B sense, where like you create your event, right? So they're hoping to work with promoters or management teams of like notable artists, whatever. It's not for us in particular to like be creating, like we're not necessarily like purchasing the box office NFTs. I don't know, from the jumps. I know that's a little confusing there. But anyway, like I just wish they would have promoted it with some notable event to start. And I think that would have been a much easier slam dunk, and also easier for people to understand, as you just heard me stumble through it. Like it's not necessarily super, super easy to understand exactly what happened just on the surface.
Tyler, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, Logan makes such a good point. And kind of my thoughts when I was writing this up this morning on the newsletter, it's great to see another, massive brand in the ticketing space embracing this. But like we need like the pilot, like A7X had a pilot with Ticketmaster with their LA and New York City shows. Like I don't know how I can specifically participate in this new ticketing solution as someone who is now interested. And I had actually never heard of Sports Illustrated tickets. I didn't know that this arm of their company existed. Now I think I will, throw them into my browsing when I'm starting to look for summer concert tickets. But I mean, just imagine if freaking like the next Taylor Swift concert had, NFT tickets tied to it. And I am super bullish. More than I'm thinking about this as a real way of onboarding. It seems like people in the crypto space are starting to embrace ticketing as like the NFT use case. I'm not limiting NFTs to that, but like that was chatter at Consensus. And I think the more people start getting familiar with the technology, there will be a percent of them that become curious about what other things you can do. And it really feels like this could be the use case that gets us there. But again, we need some pilots. I need to know the concert to go to get my NFT ticket, and then a band or a management and promotion company who actually uses the tech, right, and starts building the engagement. So we still have a little ways to go, probably.
That's funny that you mentioned the Sports Illustrated, or not realizing that they had tickets, because with the inventory and stuff that they said they have, like I've never heard of Sports Illustrated ticketing either. So I don't know if they are just not marketing correctly, or if we're just in our own bubble. I don't know. I would always think of Ticketmaster first or something like that. I've never heard of it. But Jason, you have some thoughts?
Yeah. So the reason that you never heard of it is because Ticketmaster owns over 80% of primary ticket sales in the United States, borderline a monopoly. The federal government has talked about it on numerous occasions. Also, probably the reason that Sports Illustrated NFT ticketing doesn't have a major event connected to this, because no one is going to piss off Ticketmaster to do this experimental thing with Sports Illustrated. What I do think is most bullish about Sports Illustrated getting into NFT ticketing and offering an actual product is that it pushes Ticketmaster to do the same. They're going to squash this, no doubt about it. I mean, they own all of ticketing, and they will continue to own all of NFT ticketing. But at least with a little bit of competition, they're forced to be a bit more quick with their releases and a bit more innovative. So that I'm bullish for that reason. But ticketing is massive.
I'm sorry, Jason, you may know the answer to this, but I imagine the ticketing agreements, like for individual artists, for example, because the leagues have partnerships, right? But like for an artist, a musical singer, I'm guessing their management teams would have, or is it the venues that would have the agreements with the like Ticketmaster? How does that work? Because one of the allures of this, and it should be noted, like right on the Sports Illustrated Tickets Advantage thing, it says generate more revenue by monetizing resale, which is what we've talked about, royalties, the ability to do this. Like, this would seem like a slam dunk from the sales perspective of Sports Illustrated if you're able to go to, exactly this, Ghost. If you're able to go to the artist and say, hey, you're also going to earn on secondary sales, which at present time, these platforms or these artists don't. So I just don't know enough about how the primary relationship is crafted. Maybe you can fill in there if you know. Otherwise, this would be the selling point, to me, if I'm Sports Illustrated going to these artists.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on it, but I'm like 90% sure that ticketing is done through the venue, and so the venue has relationships with Ticketmaster, and then and then obviously the artist has to have a relationship with the venue and sign a contract with the venue, and percentage of sales goes to artists, etc. How exactly that would work in an NFT landscape, I'm not sure, but obviously if Ticketmaster gets involved, they take a percentage and the venue takes a percentage and the artist takes a percentage of royalty, and it's a win-win-win for everybody. Like, there's no loser here. Also, it creates a more stable, dynamic ticketing marketplace. Whereas you like with the Taylor Swift tour announcement, you saw bots hoarding these tickets and then selling for 100x multiples, multiple thousands of dollars just to see Taylor Swift live. This creates a much more robust marketplace, and also if you connected them to blockchain portfolios that were verified in some capacity, you could stop botting, which I think is major in sports events and live music events.
I like the blurb up here that says free money for your guests. So maybe we'll have a SI token dropping soon. But something I found interesting on this release was that SI didn't seem afraid to use the term NFTs. So I'm curious to see or to hear from you guys if you think there'll be any backlash or negativity around that, and do we need another term or a rebrand?
The one thing that I would say regarding that is, what could they say that would sort of?
Sorry, Siri thought I was talking to her there.
I thought it was me, and I was like, uh-oh. But yeah, what term could they use that would sort of suggest the same thing that NFT does is my only question. Because a lot of people will use digital whatever, digital art, things like that. Tickets are already digital. So if you said like a digital ticketing solution, like everyone would just think that you meant barcodes again.
Yeah, so it's forcing their hand. And again, maybe the NFT term isn't going away, because there are certain aspects of it that just that are different, right? You could have digital collectibles that aren't NFTs. To Jason's point, you can have digital tickets. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're NFT backed. So you might just have to get used to it.
I think the super ticket thing is pretty cool as well. That's, so that's like their souped up version of many things. It's already sort of happening, like what Vault, the Solana project from Nigel Eccles, has done, which kind of gives premium access and experiences and unlocks things, very much like our typical PFP projects do, right? I think that's super great, just to kind of formalize that right in the initial launch. And then the only other thing that I'm like curious about here is many people talk about tickets as a collectible, right? You see like the stubs from time to time that get sold. Is there a secondary marketplace that gets built here for collectibles for, I don't know anything about like Taylor Swift's touring plans or whatever, but I've been monitoring prices because my girlfriend would like to go. They just keep going up and up and up. Like if she never tours again, like these are probably something that, somebody would want potentially, so that's just in the back of my mind as well, is like, will they spin up some sort of digital collectible marketplace for the stubs that they sell on box office to people? I don't know, but
Yeah,
at least they've laid the groundwork.
I could talk about this forever, but yeah, obviously there's some sort of marketplace for very, very special events. Think about like Game 7 of the NBA Finals or something, and you went live and you have a ticket, a commemorative ticket to that event, whatever. But more importantly, I also think that they can attach how many tickets you've purchased, what events you've attended, what artists you might be interested in based on those events you've attended. They have this huge database all on chain of who you are, how much money you, or not exactly who you are. You don't even have to attach your ID to it, but who you listen to, how much money you spent, whether or not you should be or should not be a priority customer for like these large drops. Say you've seen Taylor Swift in concert for the last 10 years every year, like you should probably have first access to her tour this year. Things like that. I think it gets super interesting when you can gamify the ticketing experience like that.
That's what I'm sorry, Tyler. That's what Blackbird, which we talked about very, very briefly, is doing for the music, for food and restaurant stuff. We'll have to get into that on a different show. Like that is a huge. I agree, Jason. I think that's a huge unlock that blockchain and the infrastructure of having this publicly accessible data, kind of always, in perpetuity, is awesome. Yeah.
So if
Logan,
LeBron
you took the words out of my mouth, I was just going to talk about the application to the restaurant industry. There's just so much.
Yeah. So if LeBron James gets ruled out of the next game, are we going to see like the public charts of the tickets just getting dumped like a blur chart, or Machi's going to dump 10 tickets on people's heads? So
funny to Clone X.
It would create it probably. I mean, I know that's already a market, and it's a pretty liquid one at that, I would imagine. But yeah, I think it would greater financialize. We've been talking about the financial products of Blur. Yeah, of course. Like it would create just another layer to allow people to actively trade that. I'm sure it already probably exists, right? There's got to be somebody out there that's already trading charts of ticket prices, I would imagine. I don't know.
It also creates an environment in which you can actually trade things for tickets, like other things on chain, especially for like high level tickets. Say to go to the Miami Heat courtside is like something like $5,000-$6,000 for Saturday's game. What if you could trade, like, I don't know what a relevant example would be, but say a Pudgy Penguin for the tickets, or Milady, yeah. Or actually be able to like contact the person who has the seat that you want, and even say you're super rich, offer them like $15K. Even if they fully intended on going to that game, if you want the seats, it creates a marketplace, or at least an arena for them to offer on a ticket where you have no idea who that is otherwise, and it still hides their identity. They don't have to tell you who they are on the blockchain. So it creates such a better marketplace for ticketing. I mean, it's such a obvious solution.
Last question here before we close out for the day, but I'm curious to hear if these announcements and the Sotheby's one as well makes any of you guys more bullish on Polygon as they continue to add more of these Web2 brands, and just every single major partnership seems to be going on that chain.
Polygon keeps stacking them up. It's just unbelievable. It makes me more interested in the coin than NFTs still at this point. Though Utes could be a super long-term play. Based on this, I didn't realize Sotheby's was on Polygon. That makes me dislike that this Sotheby's marketplace. I don't think people want their elite Grail art on Polygon. I think the collectors have made the collective decision that Ethereum is the home for the Grail NFTs. We'll see if Bitcoin has something to say about that in the next few years, but I don't. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I continue to be of the opinion that within the next few years we'll be completely chain agnostic. I don't think that one chain will win think different chains for different sorts of things. I think Polygon will definitely be around, and definitely bullish Polygon, but I think the end game here is that chain doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I tend to agree that chain agnostic, it feels like a pretty safe place to be. One of the things that I'm thinking about there is the ease of which these projects and or platforms can switch. Like in traditional markets, you talk about switching costs, particularly for things like hardware, or software. How easy is it for you to migrate to a different chain if costs get cheaper, or if you're lured over? We talked about that with the decision to Utes to go to Polygon. If those switching costs continue to decrease, if the migration costs continue to be low, which I believe they'll only continue to get lower and easier and faster to do, then it's difficult for me to remain like super bullish on Polygon in particular, just because you can probably go somewhere else where the money's right or where the people are right. So yeah, huge win thus far. I think obviously the business development team over there has done an exceptional job of luring people to a lower cost environment. But I'm not sure I'm ready to bet on it being the winner, because it hasn't even really won yet, with the participants that we have now.
Yeah, I tend to agree with all the comments here, especially Tyler's. I think that I'm more interested in the coin for Polygon more so than any NFTs really on there, in terms of, I don't think that these partnerships are going to necessarily drive huge revenue to the JPEGs. But I do think that the future is probably chain agnostic, like Jason said. And I think that the UI, and we saw Phantom this week introduce some new features. So I think that wallets will continue to make it easier and easier to just swap between different chains. And if that becomes seamless, then it won't really matter what chain you're on, because it will be just so easy for the user, and they probably won't even realize what chain they're using. So good conversation. Great lunch show, guys. I think we could wrap it there. But that's our show for the week. Anything else on your mind? 30 seconds, go around the horn here. Tyler, anything on your mind?
It's meme coin season. Gas prices are effectively too high to buy most NFTs right now, unless you're buying the high price one. It's drained the market. It's basically killed all volume. We'll see if meme coin degens care about the FOMC meeting happening here in 7 minutes. My gut is they don't care. We'll see how that impacts the market.
Jason, any thoughts?
Yeah, join us on the DraftKings Rainmaker show later at 5 p.m. I'm going to be talking UFC, and the other Jason will be talking about golf. Peter will also be on that show, and follow AI Authority on Twitter.
I'll I guess round out to say that you should actually give the Doodle Studio a try. We've talked a lot of shit about Doodles here, myself included. Rightfully so in many regards. The studio is pretty cool, and it only costs like $35 to mess around. If you want to talk about creating the perfect NFT, or the one that you really, really want, you should give it a try. I think it will make you understand a little bit more about why Doodle socks could be collected or purchased. I know we've messed around about that. So give the studio a try. It was a lot of fun.
There you have it. If you guys like this content and want more of our hot takes, make sure you check out the Roundtable article that we'll post later today, hashing out a lot of the same topics and more. And make sure you check out Tyler, myself, and Logan on the Lucky Lead every morning on Twitter Spaces at 10 a.m. Eastern, or in podcast form after. But for myself, for Jason, for Logan, and for Tyler, we will see you next week.